Let's return to the search for Dezi Freeman now, the man suspected of fatally shooting 2 policemen and wounding another in remote Victoria. Police say he left his property in Mount Buffalo National Park on foot, carrying several firearms. Michael Coates is operations manager at C-Astral Aerospace Search and Rescue. He says police are using a range of strategies and devices in their search for the accused killer.
Well, a police rescue helicopter would have 3 assets available to them. One would be a optical camera, the other would be infrared, and then my favourite would be the thermal camera. And optical and infrared wouldn't work so well in the weather conditions that we've got at the moment, but the thermal camera would do a good job at trying to locate the fugitive.
And how much are authorities relying on aerial tracking technology then, as opposed to sending people in on foot?
Well, I can't answer that because I'm not on the ground, but I would say they're very strongly using aerial assets because they're assets that are somewhat disposable. If you put a person into that thick bush, they could be right on top of the fugitive and get a big surprise before they even know he's there, where a drone can be overhead 200 feet to 400 feet. It makes no noise on the ground, so the fugitive doesn't know something is overhead searching for him.
So you said that the technologies used would be infrared and thermal technologies. What's the difference between the two?
Infrared relies on a reflection, so it's a bit like a camera taking a picture. So some drones will carry infrared so they can cast out a beam, and that will enable you to see in low light or zero light conditions. But probably the best asset for this search and rescue, because of the foliage and a brush they've got to see through, would be thermal. And that's a camera that can actually filter out the vegetation and show you what's on the ground. So a person is obviously going to be a lot hotter than the environment around him. And with technology, we can filter out things like kangaroos, wombats, sheep and cows, and identify the shape of a person, either walking, running, or sort of cuddled, like held up nice and tight, hiding.
Is there any way that a person could disguise their thermal image?
It's very difficult. There are things called thermal blankets, but they're not really available in Australia. They're more for sort of war areas in Ukraine and Russia. But they've got limited success from my exposure to them. The only way to really hide and outwit a thermal camera is to get into something like a cave or a big overhang, or you may find 2 big trees fallen over together side by side, and you can get underneath that and hide yourself. But it is pretty difficult with the technology we've got now.
You've been looking at the topography and the terrain in that region there. There are reports of caves and tunnels, aren't there?
Yes, there's gold mines in the area. You know, you could drop down into one of them if it's vertical, or go in on the side of a hill, and that would allow you to evade sort of detection as long as you stayed there. But, you know, one day you're going to have to come out.
You said that conditions there are not conducive to aerial technology being as effective as it might be. Is that because of the cloud cover and the height of clouds there, or what's the reason for that?
The biggest problem at the moment is, to the best of my knowledge, they're searching with helicopter, and that relies on people to fly it. Whereas if they were using sort of fixed drone technology, you can basically give a flight plan, press a button, and off it goes, and you're not putting anyone at risk. There's no one to fatigue by flying in a whiteout condition. So I'm not sure that they've launched the police helicopter today because the conditions are very poor.
Are efforts being made to communicate, do you know, with Dezi Freeman? Can you do that through drones and choppers?
Yes, both helicopters and drones have the ability to have loudspeakers attached to them, and you can broadcast a message. Primarily on drones, they're used in disaster relief or bushfires coming. You can say, leave by this particular road, so you don't have to communicate directly. There's also cell phone tracking technology that's available, and knowing the gentleman's phone number, you can broadcast directly to his cell phone messages to say, we've got a nice meal for you, it's time for you to come out.
I know you're at a distance, Michael, but what's your feeling? Do you think it's going to be a while before Dezi Freeman is located?
It depends on whether he's found shelter or not. It's a horrible place to be at the moment with low cloud, rain, sleet. If you're wet, you've got a good chance of dying within 24 hours. But if you're tucked away in a cave somewhere and you've got a stash of supplies, everyone says that he was a prepper, so he may have different locations with food and water. And in those situations, you could stay there for weeks.